Cool. We're live. We're back. Angel
We are
is
finally
lucky.
back.
Modern Relics. It's a podcast live on YouTube.
It is.
So for all of you listening, thank you. You can check us out live typically Tuesday evenings. I'd love to give you a hard schedule, but we don't have hard schedules around here. We just
I
don't.
really wish we did.
Yeah.
It should be okay for a little bit though, because I am not coming to Vegas until June. And so typically I travel on Tuesdays because it's the cheapest day to travel.
Yeah.
It's the easiest day to travel. And so, and then because of my work week and stuff, it just makes it easier. I try to get there in time to do a pod like we did last time, but you had just gotten back from dealing with getting your motorcycle back.
Yeah.
And you were in a fluster.
That was fun because I flew to Seattle the very next day. So you were here alone for like 4 days or something. And then I came back and it was, you'd also think this would be easier because we're adults and we can handle a schedule and stuff, but
right. Yeah.
I mean, again, no.
I work
you'd be
by
wrong.
schedule. Yeah.
Yeah. Stuff just happens. Although,
and so
when I did get back that, whatever that was, a week, two ago, 3 ago,
Sunday night. Yeah. Sunday afternoon.
We went to see Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith re-released. That movie, I don't have the numbers in front of me. It made millions of dollars. It was like
I think it was the biggest re-release of any film ever.
Yeah, like for
the third
select
installment
screening
of the second. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's just like, fuck yeah, pre-Kathleen Kennedy, I'm there.
Oh man, I had forgotten how absolutely atrocious the dialogue is in that movie.
It's bad.
To the point where it made two actors of renown, off the top of my head, being Ewan McGregor and Natalie Portman. It made them bad actors.
Yeah.
Like I'm watching this movie just going,
I mean,
oh, you poor things.
Surely Natalie Portman. Like,
Natalie
even the
Portman
makeup in
really
some of the scenes looked bad too, where it was just like,
it was awful.
What are they doing to our girl here? What's going on?
Yeah. It was a bad movie. And like, I mean, nostalgia is nostalgia.
Yeah.
I obviously have, and it's Star Wars, so we'll always, for the most part, look at it, except for the new Kathleen Kennedy schlock that comes out these days. But
when is she gone? I've heard rumors that she's leaving 100 times now. And I understood 3 years ago when it was 4 years ago when Bob Iger had like political aspirations, and it's like we're in the height of the woke mob having complete control of society at every layer of governmental representation. And Bob Iger's not about to fire his top female executive in face of like potential political aspirations over the fact that she's costing his company millions of dollars, which was also the truth. So instead, he gave her you have no real authority here type of position where like everything had to be run through him. And I read a lot of corroborating evidence around this and watched a ton of like hot take people talking about this, the usual like nerdist type of shows and stuff where they were like, yeah, this is going to be great because she still has to run everything for Bob Iger. But what she did to combat that was just announce publicly with no proof whatsoever that she had been greenlighting all these different projects around the Star Wars universe. So they just went off and were like, well, shit, I guess we have to make this now. Because she said it was coming and now the fans are interested. And that's where you get stuff like The Acolyte a few years later and stuff like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So brilliant political move by her, but like enough babble. Like, when the fuck is she out of there? That's my real question. Like, I thought you were leaving on your own accord, you said in a couple of interviews. Like, why are you still here? I don't know.
Yeah. I'm waiting for the airlock moment. Press the big red button, shoot her off into space.
Yeah.
She's gone. Yeah. But anyway,
but Star Wars was cool to revisit on the big screen.
It was fun to kind of get away, and we went with the crew, the Mad Monk crew, and that was pretty cool. But and then that Sunday we were going to do it again, but I ended up the Sunday prior to watching Star Wars, we were like, okay, when you get back from Seattle, we'll do one.
Yeah.
And that was on me this time because I had tattooed some longtime childhood friends from when I was like 12. Our families were really close, and they live in Utah and came down to get tattooed, and they had their kids with them. And so we went out to dinner and we went and got Indian food, which is typically not my favorite, but this was actually really good. If you're in the Vegas area, Marigold over in the Chinatown district is actually very good. Even for somebody who only kind of is okay with most Indian cuisine.
But naan bread was outrageously good.
Yeah,
I don't really care for Indian cuisine either because they tend to use a lot of coconut, which is one of very few allergies I do have. So
right, yeah.
But yeah.
So yeah, but
it was both our faults, is what it comes down to. Yeah. Sorry about that, everyone. But we're back. Yeah. We're here.
And yeah, I won't be coming out until the middle of June, so we got a good solid couple of weeks of us being consistent. So, and then hopefully I fly in like at like 1, like I land at 1.
Get in by 3 or 4.
Yeah, and so that way I can just drive straight up there and plunk myself in a chair and we can go. So.
Yeah.
As long as you don't have any situations where you're having nightmarish customer service situations. What happened? Like, what ended up happening with your bike? Because we need an update on that. Because last we heard as a group, your bike was not in your possession, and you did not know when you were going to get it back. And so that's where we left off. What happened?
So I called and pretty much said, like, you're going to be done by Tuesday or you're not. But if you're not done, know that I'm now going to be out of state for a week. So, if you're able to get the parts that you may or may not be able to get from a parts place in Wyoming that they mentioned that might overnight them some parts. I'm like, there's 3 people that live in Wyoming. Like, why is there a dealership there? So anyway, we got the parts. We just started on the job, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Should be done today. I'm like, all right. So I took an Uber up there, helmet, all that stuff, get the bike back. I talked to the general manager who's just like, pretty much, here's your bill, all set. And I'm like, not all set. Like, this is really, really horrible. The customer service part is atrocious. I've had to chase you guys down at every layer of this transaction for 3 weeks to do a job that should have taken you 4 hours. And actually, we're 2 days shy of a month that you've had the bike. We're well over a month since I made the appointment. Like, what is it that you can do to earn back an irate customer's patronage?
Anything. Give me coupons.
He's like, well, we can't. I'm like, can't sounds like won't. Like, are your shop employees W-2 employees, or are they 1099 employees? And I know you're not going to answer that question, but if they're independent contractors and you're not discounting the labor charges, where we'll be taking money out of their pocket and their W-2 folks, which I assume they are, that means we're taking money out of your pocket. So I don't give a shit. Free oil change in the future, gift card, like something. Because time's unrecoverable, and this is a fiasco. Plus, I brought the bike into you with like premium fluids in it. You filled it up with Maxima brand oils. Like, you've done the absolute bare minimum. And for a premium dealership, you don't treat your customers very premium at all. I wouldn't have come here if it wasn't specific to this brand of bike. Well, parts are hard to find for everybody. I'm like, bullshit. Parts are not hard to find for everybody, first of all. So you can throw the word tariff out the window if you're about to tell me that. Second,
right.
Why did you not order the part when you scheduled the appointment and we discussed the part numbers on the phone over a month ago? Well, yeah.
Tariff,
what?
Tariff is the new COVID.
Yeah.
It's the new excuse. I can't come into work because of COVID. Oh, we can't get that stuff.
Yeah, if tariffs were lit up today and you made the order of the parts when you were supposed to over a month ago or 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago or even last week when we had an extremely heated dialogue about why is this taking so long, you wouldn't have had to pay tariffs in the first place because that order would have been made long before those would have went into effect, which is clearly outlined in the government's discussion around how tariffs are going to affect everybody. Plus, this part's coming from Italy. It's not coming from China.
Nope.
And if this were the case, why did you tear my bike apart without having parts to put it back together again? Like, would have been much easier for me to just put this in the back of the truck and say, we'll try again in 6 months or whenever. I don't have time for this because I don't. So they didn't do anything for me. I was just like, well, Mr. General Manager, sir, thank you for the 10% off the cost of parts, which is absolutely nothing to you as a distributor of Aprilia parts. I'm just not coming back. Ever. Like, I would prefer to wheel my bike down, trailer it, or ride it to GP1 in San Diego and spend 5 hours on the road going to the next available spot, who I have also done business with before. On one of my many road trips between San Diego and Seattle and stuff for parts and tires, and those guys are awesome. Like, I would rather do that than ever come back here again unless it's an absolutely last resort. But go get my bike. Just go back there, go get it. Like, you're not going to do anything. There's no sense in me flipping out about this, but like, I happen to also have a relationship with the brand, not the dealer. Oh no, I can tell them one of their authorized dealers is treating people like shit and give them an example with receipts and timestamps. Like, they could pull the flag and you don't get to sell this brand if you have enough of these points on you, for one. But for two, like, sometimes make YouTube videos. Like, I don't have nice things to say about your company. While I'm not going to rip you guys apart, you have to know that this is extraordinarily horseshit to just hold somebody by the balls like that for a month on a 4-hour job. This would have been easier if you didn't tear the bike apart. Well, did they give you the option to this? I knew this question was coming. They give you the option to take the bike home when we knew we didn't have the parts? Yes, and the nature of the job is that oil is pissing out of the front forks all over the brakes, which is kind of why I had towels wrapped around the forks when I limped it up here in the first place. So no, I wasn't about to Heidi-ho my way back 40 minutes away on the freeway when there's oil pissing on the front brakes. I could die. Like, big handful of brakes and you just fall over. So anyway, got the bike home. That was about 30 minutes before you got in from the airport that day. And then I immediately had to fly back to Seattle the next day, which I was just pissed.
You barely beat me home.
Yeah. Sat in traffic the whole time. Like, of course, with a fork rebuild, the suspension's not set up. So for those of you that don't have or experience riding motorcycles, essentially, when the suspension on the front articulates, it's based off oil pressure and gas pressure within the fork tubes. And those are the two stanchions that hold the front wheel together. Well, when all the settings are gone because they just refill it with oil and parts and stuff, there's no balance whatsoever. So on one occasion, I got a car whip out in front of me. I grabbed a big handful of brakes and just bottomed the front end out because there was no rebound or damping adjustments or whatever. They didn't do anything to set the bike back up the way that it was, and then elected to charge me for 5 minutes against their $260 hourly rate, 5 minutes worth of chain adjustment time. They charged me $38 for that. Like, they just gave zero fucks at all about the entire thing. Like, I was on their time at their whim. Parts are hard to find, bro. You should just accept it. Like, be thankful we're working on your shit at all. It's just not the world I come from. I'm not putting up with that at all, especially since I've spent money in their shop before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
this wasn't your first time with them.
I'm just done. Yeah, I'm just done.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. You guys want to be millionaires? You can learn it right here for free. Grab a pen and paper. Call your customer. That's it. They'll keep coming back. Be honest with them. If we don't have parts, we fucked up. We're going to need this. What can we do? Do you need to reschedule? Do you need to get your stuff? Can we bring your bike back to you? Like, how do we fix this? Put the burden back on the customer to make the decision. At least give them the illusion that they're in control, that you fucked up, but let them know you fucked up. This happens everywhere I go. If it has to do with a tire or automotive repair or a motorcycle, at every shop, it's not just this one. This one was just very expensive and could have easily been avoided, like very easily could have been avoided. Just call your customer back. That's it.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. Bike's back. I spent a couple hours readjusting the suspension last week. Took it out for a ride. Put up a YouTube video on it. It's fun times. And then basically got it home and it started raining, and it hasn't stopped raining until about an hour ago from Friday to now. And so the humidity is out of control. And we were having flash flood warnings today and stuff. It was like kind of steady, soft rain for days. And then it like opened up and dumped for like 2 hours after that. And then now the sun's back out. So it's pretty bipolar down here, but at least the weather's not 90. So cheers to that. How was your week?
Not bad. Once I got back, which I had a bit of a fiasco leaving Vegas, everything was, was fine tuning everything, man. I got laundry done. I helped you with the dishes before I left. I was like fully packed, ready to go. Left early, got down to the shop. Not only got everything packed up, did a little shopping, and also put together an inventory list so I know what to bring next time. And way ahead of the game. Dropped the car off early, got to the airport early, was going to just hang out and get some food, was looking forward to just kind of chilling and get through security like a breeze, except for the fact that anytime I go through security at an airport, they always pull my bag because I always have my tattoo machines in the bag, and they assume that I'm just carrying a case full of tiny little bombs or something. I don't know. And so they pull it aside, and the lady who was in front of me, both of her, she was a pain in the butt back there. And so both her bags get pulled. She'd been throwing a fit because she didn't want to do any of the stuff.
Sure.
And every time you go through any airport, the protocols are different, but they're even different day to day within the airport. So like you can go to Vegas airport one day and the protocols for security are completely different the next day. So sometimes they just push everything through. Yeah, just throw it all in one bag. Don't even take off your shoes. Just jet on through. Other days it's full dress down.
Right.
You have to separate everything. This time it was your electronics, which I normally put in one bin, and then because it's just my iPad or whatever, and then I put my headphones and my glasses and my wallet and all that stuff in one bin with my shoes, and then I put my bag in another bin, good to go. This time everything else could go in one bin except for my iPad. It had to have its own bin. So as I'm getting my stuff pulled aside, the guy comes up and goes, "Whose are these?" And it was the ladies, the crazy ladies, and she's nowhere to be found. Like, she's just dipped out. I don't know if she had to go to the bathroom or what, but she's just not there. And he goes, "Okay, is this one yours?" And I was like, "Yep." He goes, "Let's get you out of the way." So he pulls me up, pulls out his bag, or pull out my bag. And I was like, "I know what it is. It's the tattoo machines." And he goes, "Oh, okay. I still got to check, but here's all your other stuff. Go ahead and put on your shoes and your glasses and all that, right? And your headphones." And I was like, "Cool." So I'm doing that. And he's like looking at him going, "Oh, cool. All right, cool." The lady comes back up. And it's not busy, but she is just a ball of stress. And she's like, "Those are my bags. You need to get," and just starts going bananas and like starts really kind of encroaching in my space. So I'm like, he's like, "Here, man, just take your bag. Go ahead and go." It's like, "Cool, thanks." And went to go leave, forgetting that my iPad was in that other bin. Did not even think about it. I hung out in the smoking lounge. I had dinner, was just hanging out, just tooling around the airport for 2 hours. And then I get on the plane and I go to pull out my iPad in order to watch a movie. It's not there. And I go into full anxiety mode, full panic. Like, oh no. And it occurs to me, I know exactly where it's at. So I stand up real quick, and the plane is almost fully boarded. The last kind of trail of humans is coming on, but I can't get down to that end of the plane. So I turn around, and there's a lady, flight attendant behind me. So I go running back to her, and I'm like, "Hey, I have a huge problem. This is a big deal. I need this." And she goes, "Okay, yeah, I know that sounds like it," because I was like, it is 10 years worth of work. All my notes, all my drawings, everything is on that iPad. I need that iPad. And she goes, okay, once they all sit down, that's the last of them, go talk to ops. I've already called it in. So I run to the front of the airplane and I run up the ramp to ops and I tell them the story and they're like, oh yeah, that's a really big deal. I think they're closed. But you can run up there. And I was like, do we have time? And they're like, I don't know. It depends on how fast you are. And I was like, I'm pretty fast, but I'm willing to miss this flight for that iPad. That's how important it is. She goes, okay. Do you have any bags on the flight? I was like, yeah, I do. 2 down below and then 1 in my seat. She goes, yeah, those are going to go with or without you.
Right.
Once they're on, they're on. And I was like, okay. And I'm kind of frazzled. I don't know what to do. So I'm like, damn it, this sucks. And I go walking back to my seat and I sit down and I'm trying to think. So I start calling Erin and letting her know what's going on. And in the meantime, some drunk dude in front of me is trying to help me by like reaching through and going, you want some candy? I feel bad, man. It's like, I don't want your candy. Leave me alone. And I've got a flight attendant talking to me and trying to talk to Erin, and then the pilot walks up to me and he goes, you're the guy with the iPad? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, it's pretty important. It's a work one, huh? I was like, yeah. It's like everything, 10 years worth of work. And he goes, all right, tell you what, I'm going to personally run and go get it for you. And I was like, really? And he's like, yep. So he gets on the overcom and he goes, hey, sorry, we're going to be pushing out a couple minutes late. One of the passengers left something really important at security, and I'm going to personally go run and get it. And he ran all the way to security and came back, and he had like a purple piece of paper basically saying information about the lost and found. It goes, they're closed. Contact these people. If they've got it, you'll be able to get it back. I'm so sorry. And I was like, dude, that was way above and beyond. Nice. So the opposite of what the motorcycle company did, that's the pilot himself ran to. I was like, that's crazy. So,
that's huge.
So Southwest definitely kind of earned some points for me there. But in the meantime, I got a 2.5-hour flight, and Southwest doesn't have screens.
Yeah.
So of absolute existential anxiety and dread, just sitting there going for 2.5 hours with nothing to distract me, just sitting there. It was awful. And then I get home and I just try to kind of put it out of my head, like, we'll figure it out tomorrow. It's midnight. I can't do anything about it tonight.
Yeah.
The next morning, Erin had already filed a report and they found it. And the next morning they got in contact with her and said, yep, this is it. And she goes, do you know the opening number for it? And she did. So they were like, yep, this one's yours. We'll ship it to you. And didn't charge us anything to ship it.
Nice.
And so it got back to us. And on Saturday, it took from Tuesday to Saturday. But man, it's sitting right here and couldn't be happier. But man, that was a rough week of learning how to navigate without the most important piece of equipment that I leaned on for the better part of a decade. So, borrowing other people's iPads or having to, God forbid, draw on paper, but, like stuff like that. So, but it was definitely a lesson learned on that one. And I'm very grateful that the stars aligned and somehow I got my thing back, because I didn't expect to, and I'm very, very happy. But
no, I'm excited too, because you'd reached out to me and I was like, yeah, I'll go get it tomorrow if they don't have it sorted by then or whatever. So I'm glad they got it figured out. But
yeah,
yeesh.
Ooh. Yeah, especially in that airport. I mean, it's the Vegas airport. Like that's an easy place to get stuff lost in. So
yeah, well, and my airport experience in Seattle was tons of fun. Like I was showing you videos and stuff when you got in, or when I got back in. Like there was a guy that was like full on overdosing at the gate. They had the fire department come in and pump him up full
Seattle.
Of Narcan and whatever. He's just sweating.
Did they take him off the plane? They took him off.
So yeah, like it, because I get to the airport pretty early. I've also had issues with items being stolen and stuff like that. And so I make sure I have enough oh fuck time to deal with stuff. And so I'm at the gate while the plane in front of mine is boarding. Like it's like last call, right? And so I'm like, cool, they're gonna push off, the new one will come in, people will come off that, they'll clean it, and then I get on that aircraft. And like right down the same line of chairs that I'm in, this guy's like goes in, boards, him and his wife, comes back out like minutes later, and she's standing there with like eyeballs like saucers, like she's just high as shit. And I'm guessing, because that flight was to Orlando, which doesn't get much further away from Seattle than a direct to Orlando, you know, from one end of the country to the other or whatever. And so my guess is she probably gave him like a Xanax or something for the flight, and he just was reacting horribly to it, but he was clearly overdosing on something. And so he's like in and out and shaking. Then he got up and walked away, where I'm like, oh, this guy's fine. It's just an anxiety attack or something. And then comes back and just gets worse and worse. So the fire department comes in, plane pushes off. They're like, fuck this. They just left him there. Fire department comes in. They're helping him out with EMT stuff. Then the gurney comes in. Like they strap his ass to the board and he's starting to shake. And they just... Now my plane is there. People are unloading. First thing they see when they get to Seattle, step out into the airport, and there's this guy right in front of the gate, just full on EMTs going after this dude. And I was like, well, Seattle just doesn't disappoint, does it? Like,
not at all. I mean, that's to be expected. Like, that's something that, like,
yeah.
Hey, we just want to let you know what you're getting into as you get off the plane.
Yep.
Like, this is going to be on the streets everywhere. So
welcome, traveler.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Ugh,
so
gosh.
it was bad. But yeah, we got a lot of catching up to do. We were going to talk when you were here about the Pope. The Pope passed away. Big deal.
Yes, he did. Yeah,
it's a very big deal. So I think the College of Cardinals is still trying to decide, are they not?
They are, yes. And
that's a long process. Normally doesn't take 2 weeks.
There's some heavy speculation because Pope Francis was not known for being the most conservative of popes, obviously, by a long shot. So
yeah,
and he picked apparently 109 of like the 135 cardinals.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of speculation that the next one is going to be
a clone,
as his predecessor, a clone or worse.
Yeah.
There are a few conservative ones that are actually, and I guess there's a road to victory in this case. I guess that's the way to say it. I don't know if becoming ordained as the new pope is really considered a victory. Like it's just more of a duty. But there is a couple of conservative ones. One of them, though, is I think out of Africa, and he's a super conservative African guy, and it would, I think, be the first time that an African guy would have been named pope, if that's the case. But there's
Francis was like one of the first to come out of Central America. Yeah,
Central America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's really strange because, like, on the one hand, and I'll take some cues just from some wiki pieces to help formulate some thoughts, but he's noted for his humility, emphasis on God's mercy and international visibility and all this stuff, which is by and large really good. I like that he lived kind of what he preached a little bit, like didn't stay in Pope HQ. He stayed in like more humble apartments and stuff at the Vatican, and wasn't like, kind of refused some of the more fancy clothing and different like bits that a pope is expected to don, right? And some of that was pretty cool, but what was way more concerning than that, what to me was like, he softened not just with the election of all the cardinals to the point you just made, but he softened the church's outlook on a ton of progressive items, a ton. Like advocated to demonstrate more inclusivity to LGBTQ plus people, blessed same-sex marriage unions under Catholic banner, which was never permitted. So like while they can't perform the rite of marriage under Catholicism, like they could receive blessings for same-sex unions that had never been permitted in Catholic history, by the way. He was a humongous critic of trickle-down economics, consumerism, overdevelopment. He positioned the church in front of climate change, which was outrageous. He viewed capital punishment as inadmissible in every single case as a standard. He criticized right-wing populism. He hated anti-immigration. He supported decriminalization of a ton of stuff. He helped to restore, it says, full diplomatic relations between Cuba and the United States. That might be a stretch. Negotiated a deal with People's Republic of China to define Communist Party influence in appointing Chinese bishops. That was cause for extreme concern. And oddly, this is the only pope that I've seen in person. Like, I actually got tickets to see some pope stuff for like a Wednesday service in April of 2018 in Rome. And I was like, I was really hoping I could see a cool pope and not a really progressive one. You know what I mean? It's like when you get to meet the president and it's fucking Joe Biden, and you're like, I can't not meet the president, but it's Joe Biden, you know?
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel about that? But it was a really cool experience to see that up close, and how much that just the...
It's like getting Fruitios instead of Fruit Loops.
Yeah, like... But, you know, I was having some discussions about Catholicism and why it's has some minor appeal to especially younger generations. And it's like, well, there's a lot of theater involved in Catholicism too. They have these big opulent cathedrals, and there's all this big imagery, and there's stuff that you could tangibly equate to the messages that you're hearing as greater than yourself. And I mean, even physically, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's very relational to people that have absolutely no experience with this, especially like New Testament teachings. When you think about like Foursquare churches, Calvary churches, stuff like that, where Western Orthodoxy is kind of evolved from New Testament teachings a lot in the fellowship aspect of things, where Catholicism's super fucking old school. You know what I mean? It's still, there's a lot of theater to it. There's a lot of procedural to it. There's a lot of stuff, and I think that's what people grip onto more than anything else when they're looking to fill that void. Now, I have great respect for Catholicism and deep grievances with Catholicism. I have a pretty complicated relationship with Catholics and Catholicism itself, but it was neat to see as an experience for a human being to be like, wow, this is unlike anything I've ever experienced in my life. And truly, it was unbelievable. But it was just kind of a bummer that it was this pope, because I have extreme disagreements on almost every single point that he has made throughout his papacy. And I just thought he put the church in front of all the wrong things. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what the church should be. East or West, there's real separation between church and state. Not everywhere.
Now, when you've blurred the lines between what the church is supposed to be biblically and what the world is, and you can't tell the difference between the world and the church, then what's the point of the church?
Yeah. Great guy. I'm sure he'd have been a fun hang. He seemed like very humble and had a lot of the right spirit about what one would expect of a pope. But the way that he leveraged the Catholic Church in front of a bunch of progressive policies really made my skin crawl for the entirety of his papacy. What was really interesting too, I think I mentioned this to you, I don't remember. There's a movie out, I think it's on Netflix, with Anthony Hopkins and some other dude called The Two Popes. And it's the story of the ascension of Pope Francis. And he died like a week after that I watched that movie. Because it had been, I'll get to that. I like Anthony Hopkins. I knew this was going to be a dialogue heavy movie. Like, I got to kind of put my head in the right space to sit through this kind of deal. Great movie for what it's worth. Very...
So it wasn't J.D. Vance that killed the Pope. It was you.
It could have been.
Yeah. All
could have been.
Got it.
So yeah, it's a complicated topic. It's a huge loss anytime a figurehead of that magnitude that walks freely into pretty much every established government worldwide with impunity passes away, that's a big deal, because there's supposed to be a neutral force for good. I believe this to be true, although I don't have notes and facts in front of me, but I believe the Catholic Church is the only organized religion that can also raise its own army no matter what.
It is. That is true, yes.
It's kind of fun. Like, you just get called into service for the Holy War if that's what you believe to serve, and just leave whatever it is you're doing, even if you're serving in your country's military to go join the Pope's next crusade. Still possible to do legally. But yeah, big loss, but at the same time, there was a lot of damage done to Catholicism, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
As a result of his papacy. That's my opinion.
As a dirty Protestant as I am, I obviously have my theological differences with any works-based faith of any kind, but as far as the historical significance of what the Catholic Church is and was, there's obviously no doubt that the impact that it's had worldwide through history is significant. As far as like the front runners I was talking about, I looked up a list and there's a whole bunch of them, and most of them look pretty progressive. But this guy, Cardinal Fridolin Ambongo, Archbishop of Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo, he looks like he's pretty based, and he looks to be probably the most conservative of any of them. But I was wrong. He won't be the first African pope. It'll just be the first one in more than 1,500 years, apparently. So the last African pontiff was Pope Gelasius, who died in 496 after leading the church for a little over 3 years. But so he will be the second if that's the case. Do I think that they're going to lean in this direction? Probably not. And there's also the. Hold on, I got to switch hats.
Oh, here it is.
So there's also the conspiracy.
Yep.
That that this is the last pope too, and in the which cathedral is it? I can't remember the name of it. The one that starts with a B. And it's a circular building, and they have like placards within the ceiling for the amount of popes. And there was a prophecy that was done a couple hundred years ago of them saying that this will be the last pope up into this year, and that 2027 will be.
Are you talking about the Basilica in St. Peter's Square, like in Vatican City? Yeah, it's Vatican City.
Yeah. So there is a whole like series of plaques with each the face and name of each of them, and there's only enough for one more pope after Francis. And so now they're saying that this, and it is also in conjunction with like this other prophecy that they said that the end times will come at the end of that pope, and they do the math and it comes out to like 2027. So, but that's what this is for, just in case, but yeah.
It'll be easy pickings if you just pick another John Paul the 15th or a Benedict the 17th or something like that, where you can recycle a name like the popes before you have done for years and years.
Right.
Yeah. Then you can save that free space for the real last pope, and then you're not on the hook for being the last one. You know what I mean? That's a tough burden to bear.
Nobody wants to be that guy.
No, I think this is also, I think Francis was maybe not the first, but one of the few to be a Jesuit as well. So very interesting orthodoxy that he came from through his appointment. But I would encourage for fun, if you can handle a pretty dialogue heavy film, check out that movie, The Two Popes. They have a real interesting dramatization between Pope Benedict that retires and then pretty much sets up Pope Francis to take over.
Pope Benedict's the one that looked like the emperor, right?
Yeah, and he quit, like he resigned. Yeah, which does not happen often.
No.
So, yep, interesting time.
Check it out because I'm always fascinated by political movies and also theological movies. So
me too. It would be a life goal to get into the Vatican Library one day for me.
Yeah,
I think that's off limits to even the governments of Italy and every other government. But I would love to know what they've held back, because that's the big conspiracy.
I would imagine there's a lot of treasures within that library that.
I mean, the treasure part, like from an artifact perspective, would be cool to see, just to see it. Like I've no desire to like
treasures.
That's what I'm after. Is like
not monetary.
What did the church just say this was because they said so, rather than historical documents to prove otherwise? Which there are a number of accounts of stuff maybe being proven the other way, that the Catholic Church just said, nope, God wants it this way, so we're gonna pivot left here, and nobody knows because those archives are not accessible. So
right,
it'd be really cool to see in there one day.
I'm just curious as to like when they're going to actually do the voting for this. But man, on a
conclave's been going on for a while.
I'm not Catholic, obviously, so I have really no dog in this fight outside of the fact that the Pope does have some political power that can affect nations. But on a personal level, I want to watch this go down because, man, it's got the groypers on Twitter in a twist.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because the only conservative replacement for the Pope so far is an African guy, and they don't know what to do. Like they're going out of their way to try to defend Francis's take on. Like Nick Fuentes personally went on the defense to defend Francis's take on illegal immigration, even though he has been like railing against illegal immigration
for years.
For years. But now he's like, and man, it is fun watching them twist themselves into knots, trying to figure out
how do I shape the narrative to the majority? Lesser of two evils. This is where the like. You know, the doctrine in their head starts to crumble and things just don't compute anymore. And
because I mean, this guy's like absolutely against same-sex marriage and stuff like that. Like, so this is their guy, but he unfortunately,
it's gonna be real hard to defend Pope Francis, then, don't you think?
Yeah, right. So that's the thing, is that this guy is going to be the one that they're going to have to get behind. He's going to have to be their Kanye.
Yeah.
Or their Candace Owens, you know? And as long as he's not cool with the Jews, I think they'd actually like him.
That's what kills me, man. Every time
he's cool with the Jews.
Because that's when Candace Owens became popular with that whole sect of weirdos.
Oh yeah, it's the same thing. It's how they use, it's their puppetry. They use a black person,
right, when it's convenient,
with a significant voice, when they've put a earworm in them and went, hey, you know, the Jews, right? And so this Kanye or Candace has a big microphone in front of them, and all the things that they can't get away with because they're just, you know, they're screaming about the Jews. They're like, yeah, but this famous black person, we can use him as a voice, like a puppet, and we can actually stand behind them and make fun of them behind their back, but we can actually use them to project all the things we want to say, but we can't get away with, but they can, because no one's going to come after them for racism as quickly as they will at us. So let's use them. And so that's what they've done. That's what they've done with Kanye. That's what they've done with Candace. And so if this guy is Jew friendly in any, Israel friendly, like they'll throw him to the wolves. They'll hate him. He won't be conservative enough for them in their minds, because conservative to them means hate the Jews. So this guy is,
which is very, very, very interesting. I suppose that's why they're giving Pope Francis his flowers then, because recently, 2023, 2024-ish, Francis condemned Israel's military operations in Gaza and was calling for investigations for war crimes and stuff like that. So
they will overlook anything else as long as you're aligned with hating the Jews. Wow. Everything else is set aside. They don't care. You can be a full-on like cosplay pagan. They do not care as long as you hate the Jews. So that's the only
should alert
tissue.
People to the twisted ideology of that group of folks, man. We've said it before. Yeah. We're going to continue to say it, but Jesus.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this will be fun to watch. It'll be fun to watch over the,
I agree.
There's a lot to be done and said about this, so we'll see. And hopefully, I think it's supposed to happen in the next week or two. I don't know if they have it done on, because I mean, you can't plan a pope dying.
This process can and has taken a full year before.
Oh wow!
Like this, yeah, they will go until they don't go anymore. And what's interesting in my recollection of how this works is each cardinal of their own free will gets a pen and paper, and then they tear their little note with who they nominate to succeed the Pope. They put it in the big jar, and then they push it down in there, and then they go take a seat. And then there are some elected cardinals that will go through and basically tally up all the names that went through, and they'll say, we have a majority, we have a bunch of random names. We're going to narrow that list to to 10, because this is not an overwhelming majority for the last 2 or whatever. Everyone take a break. We're having lunch. We're going to come back. Then they start with 10. Everyone writes their shit down. They put it in. They argue about it. Then it gets down to 5. And then, it bounces around. And each time that sequence of names has been cast, they will throw a type of smoke into the chimney. And so everyone that's outside watching, when the white smoke means we have a new pope or whatever, they throw a black smoke in there, and the black smoke comes up and everyone's like, they're still deliberating. But this process can go, I believe a century ago, it took a year and a half for them to come to a decision. So like they'll go as long as they need to go. Sometimes it's quick. Like often it's not more than a day or two. Often this has already been weeks. So this is not an easy decision is what this means.
Do you think, well, maybe now we're in the modern age and they can use the electronic voting machines.
Yeah. I think they should talk to Harris's team about that. See if they can expedite some of that.
Yeah.
Just
speed it up.
Hey, can I vote if I'm not a cardinal? Sure. Come on in. You're here, aren't you? We don't need any ID. You look legit. Yeah. We should try that. If they haven't decided next week, you want to like sneak into Italy and be like, hey.
What's the name of that voting machine company that everyone is all up in arms about over the 2020 election?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to Google it. 2020 election voting machine company. Was it Dominion Voting Systems?
Yeah, the Dominion ones. Yeah. So we'll get some Dominion stuff out there to Rome, and we'll see what we can do.
Sneak in during the like Cardinal when they break conclave for lunch or whatever, and start passing out pamphlets about the Dominion voting machine. Like have a full demo and stuff. Like that pen and paper shit's from the past. You don't even need to waste the smoke anymore with the new Dominion voting machine.
It'll go right to everybody's phones instead of having to put smoke in the air.
Let the people decide,
Yeah, democracy now.
Let's see where Francis is at in the polls posthumously. 42% approval rating. You want to do better? Dominion voting machine. Yeah. So you're following up on another story about the DNA of everyone being for sale, 23andMe.
Right.
Scary business. You got tied up in that indirectly because members of your family used either an Ancestry.com or a 23andMe or whatever. Hey, Cynthiana.
Right.
But you recently found out your family grew as a result of that, right?
Yeah. So
walk us through
and I've got
this madness.
Right?
We just talked about this.
We did, and it just hit, and I got 2 stories in one day.
Yeah.
One day. So out of nowhere, there's a family chat with my mom's side of the family, the Hanleys, right? And it's got all my mom comes from 6 kids, from Robert and Marjorie Hanley. My grandfather was in World War II. My grandmother was a nurse, and then they had 6, Irish Catholic kids. 4 girls and then 2 boys at the end. That's all we knew. That's it. My eldest aunt is, I think, like 72, something like that. My youngest uncle is 15 years older than me, so he's in his late 50s, early 60s, and so this is. The cousin, all the children are all in their 40s and 50s, right? And then or late, 40s and 50s. I think Laura was the youngest of all of the grandkids in that side of the family. And then, we've all had kids, and now we're all almost having kids. So this is not something that ever came up in all of our family's history. Well, in their family chat, which I ignore because it's a bunch, I just don't have time for that nonsense. But my mom came to me and she's just like, hey, this is wild. This is what's being discussed in the chat. Apparently, my grandfather, after he got out of World War II, had gone back to his hometown in Pueblo, Colorado, to go see family or go back to his hometown. He had signed up to go to college at the local university there. I don't know what the name of it is.
Pueblo Tech. Yeah. I don't know.
Right? Yeah. And so he started seeing a girl, and that girl's dad was a professor at the school and of high regard, I guess. Well, that girl apparently got pregnant. And that girl got removed from my grandfather and then shipped off to some boarding home.
Was it a Catholic boarding home?
Probably.
Could she be Daredevil?
Vat of chemicals and blindness aside, probably not.
Okay.
But she came back sans baby. Apparently, that baby was given up for adoption, and through this Ancestry.com stuff, they picked up that she was related to my cousin Kyle, who is the son of my uncle Tim, and there was a 15% match, and turns out that my grandfather had. I now have a 76-year-old aunt who lives in Pueblo to this day. She has 3 kids, so I have 3 more cousins who are 2 of them are older than me and one of them's younger than me. They all have kids.
Crazy.
Ranging from mid 30s to 10. So
I wonder if they're all alumni of Pueblo Tech. Go Fighting Newts.
One of them lives in Texas. The rest of them all live in Colorado. So, and I think he's moving to Kansas from the information that I got.
I wouldn't.
But it is wild, but that's the only person that it got connected to. So it does tell me that at least my DNA, because I am a paranoid man. I do not want my DNA out there. I can only speculate.
Oh, here it is.
What is it?
You guys really got to check us out on YouTube. We have a full aluminum helmet now. He's got to crunch it down tight when we're getting into the conspiracies. I love it. This is
but yeah, I do not want my DNA out there. I do not want my family's DNA out there. There's never going to be a time frame that the importance of family history and tracking it down, which you can do via paper. Sure, it's a lot harder work.
Yeah.
But that's part of the fun of it, is
Right.
to kind of track down your family history that way. But there's nothing that isn't going to be nefarious about data collection on people's DNA. They will find a way to weaponize it against the populace.
100%.
Period.
I've seen
100%.
Resident Evil. They do weird shit with stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not playing around with that. And the minute that stuff came out, I was like, nope. Mm-hmm. And so
I was extremely averse to it. I'm like, none of this can go right. Like,
yeah.
I mean, cool family fun thing. Everyone got into it early pandemic. This will be a great thing to chase down while we're all doing nothing at home. I'm like, none of this is a good idea. Yeah. None of this. Yeah.
So,
but I'm a little paranoid as well.
So this whole thing just, like blew up on our family, and we're dealing with it right now. However, in another facet, on the same day, I get a text message from my sister, Laura.
Yeah.
And she's like, what is happening is our dad, like, having like just children everywhere. I just got this pulled up on my 23andMe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And it says that she has a half sister by the name of Tristan LaRue. Now, Tristan is actually our cousin. It's on my dad's side. It is my dad's youngest sister, Kim's oldest daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And I've met Tristan. I've tattooed Tristan. We've hung out. Like, they are definitely, like, we had an estranged situation for most of our lives. Laura just actually met our real father for the first time last November. I've had a relationship for 18 years, but the rest of the family kind of lived all over the place, like in Havasu. These are the people I meet, go hang out in Havasu with. But Laura's never even met Tristan, and it's very odd, just in an odd situation. But she gets this 23andMe, and it says that at I think 14.5% or something like that, Tristan is her half sister. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. That math doesn't math. But my sister's like, it's saying it right here on the paperwork, and she's sending me all these screenshots. So I was like, I think it's a categorization error. I think that what is going on is that it is in the bottom end of the spectrum of half sister and in the top end of the spectrum of cousin.
I don't know how that works either, but if you're talking high 80 percentile range, that's kind of like time to raise some eyebrows, but 15% to me kind of feels like a shot in the dark.
That's a cousin.
Yeah.
So and that's what it is. And so Laura was convinced that dad had given
full trampage.
No, well, she's like, is it incest or what? And I was like, no, it's definitely not that. But she thought that maybe he had a kid and Kim adopted it. And I ended up having to call my grandma to clear this thing up and go, Grandma, she's in the car driving with 87 years old, coming back from playing poker with all of her ladies, and they're all on speakerphone.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, hey, weird question. Blah 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 blah, and I go through the whole story. She goes, "No, I've seen she was born in Hawaii. I've seen the pictures. Tom wasn't anywhere near there, and no, that's not Tom's kid. She was pregnant with Tristan." I was like, "That's what I thought. Just wanted to clear it up." So I brought this information back to Laura, and she's like, "Okay, but wild, because this could really destroy families. Information like this, if it came back as under the wrong category."
Oh yeah, big time. Because it would expose people that are like, I'm gonna go get a pack of smokes, I'll be right back, and then start a whole new life 17 miles away. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but even then, oh, your brother is actually my father. My uncle's actually my dad, because of a categorization error.
Right.
And people having to look at data on a paper that the categorization is wrong, and then all of a sudden now it's splitting up families because of
all things people would likely want to fact check in an era of fact checkery.
Right.
That would be pretty high on the list, and no one seems to know how to or even cares. I love it.
So yeah.
So presumably you reached out to this new 76-year-old aunt from Pueblo Tech. The fighting newts.
The fighting newts. No, I haven't yet.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait. I'm kind of low on the list of people who need to reach out to this lady.
Sure.
But I would imagine the brothers and sisters. I mean, I could leapfrog them all and just go, "Hey, what's up? We're coming out to see you."
Just book a flight. Yeah, that's the move.
Yeah, just,
right there. Meet us at the Golden Corral. No information. Just Dad.
Hey, I want to meet my cousins. Everyone round up. We're going to the Sizzler.
That's right.
But yeah, one of those things,
man.
But apparently, what the beauty of it is that side of my family is like very progressive leftist. They're the only part of my whole juggernaut of family that is kind of in that cavalcade of thought of being progressive and less leftist. And
sure,
they're all intellectuals and they all think they're professors and stuff. So like my aunt, all of them are leftists. So that's part of the reason why I don't chat in the chat, because I'm just like, I'm tired. I'm not gonna sit there and
instigate a riot. Yeah,
right. So, but apparently my mom says that this whole new wing of the family are all like conservative Christians. And so it's just going to piss them off so bad when we all become better friends with them and get close to them.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be fun to watch from a distance. So, but
I can't not laugh when I see that helmet pop out. Do you get HBO with that antenna, dude?
I'm getting voices for sure. I should probably take this off.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, good conspiracy corner.
That comes up when I go into conspiracy mode from now on. So
I love it.
And
it's a great addition to the show. We got one more story before we get into some of the pop culture stuff. So looks as if the minority candidate for Canada won a called forth sudden election to succeed Justin Amazeballs Trudeau. And there's some interesting future of Canada stuff that's populating everywhere. Notably, the restriction of the use of cars or the purchase of cars predating 2004, which seems to be popping up
2000
everywhere.
Or 2004, yeah. And I'm getting conflicting reports on whether or not he actually made this claim. It would make sense in the grand scheme of Canadian politics for them to pull something like this immediately out of the hat. So I didn't even question it when I heard it the first couple of times and saw the reports on it.
I don't see Prunzi tonight, but we'd have to ask him. He is our man in the field about what this means for Canada.
I was going to ask if Prunzi was available to kind of help out with some of these questions, but our boy Poliver,
Pierre
the conservative
guy,
he our boy Pierre, he apparently screwed the pooch and went on a multi-week tirade trash talking Trump.
Yeah.
And lost his conservative base by doing so.
That'll happen.
And which is a really odd move for that guy, considering he is essentially the Trump of Canada, more or less, right? Mm-hmm. So it really didn't make any sense politically for him to do that. It felt pretty self-sabotaging, but I guess Carney is only slightly worse than Trudeau, so that's, I guess, good. He's not 100% worse. He's more like 30 to 40% worse than Trudeau. So good for you, Canada.
Great things to look forward to up there in Canada.
Yeah.
I actually had a bone to pick with conflicting stories too. The internet is telling me that our pal Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon and I don't know if he's the CEO of Amazon, the founder of Amazon, and the current founder and I think CEO of Blue Origin, the space flight that just took the all-female broadcast of celebrities into lower atmosphere. Let's stop there. This happened, we think, but most of us don't think it happened. And I have really, really extreme evidence to point to to point to the fact that this was a PR move. And what the internet's saying now is because all this is shitting itself, that there's to be a lawsuit for $50 million seems to be the number they came up with. I have no evidence of this other than YouTube videos from people that I've never heard of before. There's no paper out there. The news isn't covering it, but apparently
I saw the same thing though. I saw it on multiple different outlets, but they were all videos too. Yeah. So I don't know if this is actually real, but you're right.
Saying they're going to sue, what's Katy Perry?
Katy Perry.
Because she fucked up the PR stunt by opening the capsule that she got out of from the inside out. Revealing that it was a set piece. We knew it was a set piece. Those of us that were skeptical, like there's no scorch marks on the capsule. There's no evidence that they were deprived of literally anything for any length of time. There's no body chemistry changes. Their makeup wasn't even running. There's nothing on the ground indicates that anything struck the ground, soft or hard, or tried to land. There's no blast off marks. It felt like a
tent in the desert.
It felt like a PR stunt for reasons that remain unclear. But this lawsuit alleges, from people that allege it exists, that he's going to sue her because she screwed it up, and now investors are pulling out of Blue Origin because the whole thing was a big sham.
Right.
That's a lot to process.
Well, the reasoning and the logic and the reasoning behind why there was the publicity stunt is because Bezos, in an effort to kind of compete with Elon Musk's SpaceX operation and all that, he wanted to bring celebrities into it in order, which is odd, but wanted to bring it in to make it more pop culture and accessible. That space travel was going to be more pop culture and accessible. So he brought in celebrities to kind of say, look, we can do it, so can you. And it was a huge publicity stunt. And the thing is he was supposed to like show up and open up the hatch and let them out. And she had been told, they've been briefed, and that's how this was going to go. And they practiced it and went over it.
Right.
But she didn't like that idea. She liked the idea of her strong woman opening up the door on her own and coming out and showing the world that she's super strong. So
she didn't want to get mansplained. Okay.
Yeah. And so she did it on purpose. So she wasn't going to be saved by Jeff Bezos coming to open up the hatch, but she was going to pop out like a glam star and go, look we did it, us chicks up in space. And
now remind me, the accessibility of space travel, obviously predicated on the wildly popular starport on the moon. What's the airport code for that? Oh, right. There's nowhere to fucking go in space. Like, how would any of this be relatable? Like, less yet to bring celebrities that have more money than any of our listeners plus ourselves combined would ever make in 10 lifetimes be able to afford space travel to where exactly? Mars? Like, where is this travel going, Jeff? Like, the whole idea of that in and of itself didn't make sense, other than to make some cool intro video on sales pitching yourself to investors to maybe start up Blue Origin's intergalactic airline. What is he doing? Like, none of this makes sense.
It's like space bus tours by Amazon. Is that what we're doing here?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand what the point of it is.
You get the ride for free, but only for a couple of years. And if you're a Prime member, until they say you have to pay more as a Prime member, or you get commercials. Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing?
The lawsuit is specifically because of what she did. But
that I understand, if it's real.
But what ended up happening was apparently because of that, and they're like, wait a minute, how'd she open the door from the inside?
Exactly.
Like, because of that, all the internet sleuths got on board, and they're like, okay, there's no scorch marks. Okay, there's no like pad of where
we saw that. Hit the dirt. Like, initially, we're like, this looks like a set piece. Like, I don't remember, was it you I was talking to, or I was like, this isn't real. Absolutely. This, like, no, there's nothing indicating
But apparently, watching the interior videos too, they even apparently there's a bunch of sound going on, and it sounded like a sound stage, and they're like, "This is a sound stage. None of this is real." And of course, she's freaking out on the internet, going, "It's real. We went to space." And even Bezos is like, "You ruined everything." Mm-hmm. And now I'm gonna sue you. And so that's really what's going on. But I don't think they even touched the atmosphere. I don't think they even
I don't think they left the ground. Yeah. Like none of this computes even one iota where it's like, it's a stretch, maybe not. Like from the jump, I'm like, this doesn't look real at all. Like, no. And I'm pretty layman when it comes to this stuff. So I don't know. It was funny, but worth mentioning. I suppose if there is going to be some sort of lawsuit, we will bring it to you and keep you up to date on it. But
I say we try it again.
Yeah. Who do we send this time?
This time we don't bring him back. We just let him keep sailing off, and that way Katie can sing to her heart's content into the void. And that'll make me happy. Like I'll get on board with that. Blue Origin, let's do it. I'll pitch
not
in
to make this too dark, but the last time a group of ambitious billionaires got into a capsule, they were underwater. Yep. That didn't end well.
No.
So space,
because it was controlled by a
that makes way more sense.
Generic PS3 controller or something like that. Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. A Logitech controller. But and they forgot to put batteries in it. So,
oof.
Yep.
I've been there, but there wasn't as much table stakes riding on the success of that one. It was just, I have to charge my controller before I play this video game. That set me back literally minutes. It's hilarious. It's hilarious that people go to the lengths they go to for reasons that kind of remain unclear. I still don't know what that's proving to anyone in the world.
Also, this puts into question now William Shatner. Remember when a couple years ago he went into space and the whole crew looked like the Fantastic Four?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did he even go? Because that was Blue Origin too, right?
I think so. Certainly wasn't SpaceX.
Tell us the truth, Shat. Tell us the truth. Did you go? Did you go to space?
Man. All right. Well, speaking of underwater, I have my first 10 megs. My first 10 meg movie review.
Your first 10 meg movie review. I love it.
I finally watched The Meg and The Meg 2, The Trench.
Can you believe that, guys? To the audience, Angel had not actually seen The Meg or The Meg 2 prior to us starting this podcast, where we used The Meg as
our gradient of success or failure.
And I think
of the
it's
film.
Because I reviewed The Meg at that point in time, and
we
just automatically adopted it.
How many megs was it? Right.
Yeah, and then it just became the thing. So
all 10 megs appear
because now we have the megs on the screen now.
Yeah.
Like it felt appropriate that you actually took the next step.
It's
and
true.
Went into adulthood and actually watched The Meg and The Meg 2. So
unbelievable movie. Both of them.
Right? Cinematic masterpieces.
It's great. I don't know if Jason Statham is laughing at himself, I could be a caricature of myself for the rest of time doing essentially the same role. But the first thing, and you and I watched 2 together, right? The Trench, when you were here.
Yeah.
It was because you'd made an apt observation that it's this is 2 different movies. There's this one, and then when they're topside on the beach, it's complete. And I'm like, yeah. And I was it feels like Jason Statham is our current generation's version of Steven Seagal. Where it's the cook is a Navy SEAL somehow, and he gets to be almost completely out of uniform and have a ponytail. That makes sense. Tommy Lee Jones is here. Sick. I don't know why he continues to do these movies because he's done some cool art project films before.
Yeah, he's a great actor when he's acting.
Awesome. Rock and Roller was cool. He did The Italian Job, was fun. He's done some work with Guy Ritchie, Snatch, all that stuff. And now he's just doing the beekeeper, the Meg, the working man, and it's all kind of the same. The mechanic, it's the same dude. Like, I don't know if this is just paychecking it for this guy or whatever, but it's always fun. I have no problem.
I'm on board for every one of them. Like, it is. But the Meg holds a special place. Yeah, I do too. But the Meg holds a special place, and the Meg 2 specifically as well. The Meg was a great movie that brought something that a lot of people went to go see having one thing in mind, and then got a very weird CGI Chinese action flick out of it that was full of weird kung fu and slapsticky kind of, Chinese filmmaking comedy, but with fun jump scares and gore and jaws chomping, that kind of stuff. And then, much like the Fast and the Furious movies, the Meg 1, if the Meg 1 was like Fast and the Furious like 3 as far as its ridiculous nature, the Meg 2 jumped to like 9 or 10 in the Fast and the Furious series. It leapt so far, where you've got dinosaurs, you've got like 3 Megs, you've got a Kraken, you've got campy like island beach partiers that are all getting just kind of wiped out and running around in circles. You've got terrorist bad guys and spies. You've got underwater chase scenes. You've got above water jet ski chase scenes with spears. Like, it takes you everywhere that movie could possibly have imagined, and then put a snarling Jason Statham and some kung fu kicks on a exploding dock, and wrapped it up in a beautiful, beautiful film. And
it's great. For like an awesomely bad movie, it's top notch. It's super good. So that's that was my big one. I watched a few other things here and there, but nothing super notable at this point. I'm still working on a review for another one. You, however, watched a few things. Like, we'll get to Mobland in a minute, because I only watched the first episode with you and have a good reaction for that. But you watched, where do you want to start? The Order or the Sasquatch Sunset?
Let's do Sasquatch Sunset, because that one will be kind of short. The Order, I actually have a lot of storytelling, so it may actually want to be after Mobland, because I've got connective tissue to the Order, but and it's kind of culturally and regionally important for the area that I live in. But Sasquatch Sunset was not any of those things. I like a good Sasquatch story. I'm, Harry and the Hendersons hold a very special place in my heart.
I actually shot a Sasquatch movie once.
Yeah. And so it's hard to make a good Sasquatch movie. They either make them like cheesy horror films or go in another direction where it's super boring. And so I was kind of really looking forward to Sasquatch Sunset, due to the fact that it was kind of an indie film, and it was directed by like David Zellner and Nathan Zellner, and it had a weird cast. Like, Jesse Eisenberg plays, and Riley Keough play 2 of the main Sasquatches in it, and it's a family of 4: a dominant male, kind of a adolescent younger male, a baby or like a toddler kind of Sasquatch, and then a female. And the makeup was actually pretty good, for the most part. I did not know. I had heard some things about this movie. I had heard that, Ari Aster was the producer. I had heard that it had been at a couple of film festivals and did really well, and that it was this weird kind of amalgamation of genres. And the trailer looked kind of interesting, and I didn't really know what I was going to get into. I didn't know what the tone of the movie is. I didn't know if it was what it was going to actually be like. But it opens up with the dominant male and the female having a 5-minute hump scene while the other two just stand there and watch. And it never gets better. So it follows this 4 Sasquatches that over the course
Tommy
of the year.
Wiseau's The Room, where you're just like,
yeah, essentially, yeah.
Are we opening with a softcore porn? What is this? And it just
right.
Yeah. Awesome.
I mean, it was beautifully shot because it's all in the wilderness, and so they had some really cool artsy wilderness type of scenes. But it is bizarre at best and really kind of boring and weird and uncomfortable for the rest of it.
Sounds like it.
And basically, it takes you on a year's journey from spring into summer, into fall, into winter, into spring again. And you follow these 4 together who are kind of, I guess, looking for other Sasquatches, because every once in a while they stop and like ritually bang sticks together and wait to hear if they hear other Sasquatches banging sticks together or something. They never do. There's no one else in the film. It's just these 4 grunting. And when I say humping, pissing, shitting, and throwing up, and like every bodily function, getting weird red rocket boners. The males all have like weird like dicks on them.
Yeah.
Like, I was trying to like this movie really hard, and I just couldn't do it. It was awful. It was boring. It wasn't funny. It was super weird. There's a scene where the big male Sasquatch tries to have sex with a mountain lion, and it goes poorly, and he dies. And I don't care if I'm giving spoilers. And he's getting his guts eaten out by when they find him. The other one, male, dies tragically by getting rolled over in a river with a log, and they can't get the log off of him, and he drowns. There's the most horrible, creepy, bizarre, poorly done special effects birthing scene of the female giving birth to a weird, creepy Monchichi baby, and like she ends up rolling, like killing it in its sleep, and then slapping it back to life, and it starts crying again after a couple minutes. Like, the ending doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. Avoid this movie.
Sure.
Do not watch this movie. It holds no value at all. So, and I'm very bummed because don't go to the Sasquatch realm in cinematic realm and disrespect it this way. It was disrespectful. Disrespectful. So, I would say 1.5 megs with the ass end of the meg, due to the fact that there was some cool like scenery. Yeah. And the fact that the costumes weren't that bad.
The most gripping part of the film was the location it was shot at.
Yeah. It's also set in like 1990 because they find a camp, and the boombox that they find is essentially from that year. And so they kind of, there are people speculating that this was the
prequel to Harry and the Hendersons, maybe.
Right. Yeah. And that the little one ends up becoming Harry later or whatever. Heard that. So, but
1.5 megs, ass end of the meg. No good.
Yeah. Terrible film. So now Mobland is a show, and you and I we decided, due to the casting of this alone, is something that you and I, and kind of the story structure, that you and I would actually be interested in. And so we watched the first episode together.
It had all the right ingredients going in. It had Guy Ritchie, it had Pierce Brosnan, it had Helen Mirren, it had Tom Hardy. Like, these are all folks I'm a huge fan of. And it did not disappoint, but I've yet to revisit the series because of my schedule. But we watched the first episode. I was all in. Yeah.
So much so that I ended up watching. I'm up to date, and I think there's 6 episodes now out of the first 10 of the first season. And if this thing doesn't get a second season, I would be absolutely shocked.
Yeah.
It is fun. It is tense. You're like I realized my jaw's tight after every episode, being like going, oh no. Helen Mirren is an absolute beast in this. She is the pivotal character of holy shit in this. Tom Hardy giving the performance of a lifetime by being the man who has to juggle the problems of a lunatic mob Irish family. Pierce Brosnan has never been more menacing. I think that the side stories that are all tying in are fantastic. All the background characters are fantastic. It is an incredible movie about mafioso lifestyle in London. And the opening song too really captures it. I don't skip the credits because I really love the opening song to it, and it's really well done. Really well done. I'm looking forward to you catching up to it, but and it's hard to really give it a meg scale until you really know how it's going to but if I was to give it one right now, it's a solid 8.5 toothy end. And so and that's only, it may go up from there because I just
there's
4 more episodes.
A tremendous amount of excellent prestige television like just out there today, because like I got a hold of Landman and I was like, this is not my genre at all, and this movie is, or this series is dope. Like, you've got to get involved. This is a Billy Bob thing you're gonna love, and it was awesome.
This show's this show's almost like Landman, except for like he's fixing the mob family problems instead of the oil mob family problems. And
there's a real formula to this that people are eventually going to catch on to and get sick of. Like this, even in having only seen one episode of Mobland, the interaction, I recognize it's the same writer director, and nobody does London underground storytelling like Guy Ritchie, and there probably will never be somebody like him to the degree that he's excellent at it. That said, there's a lot of parallels just in the format of the characters and their relationship to one another, as there was in The Gentleman. Even though it's a completely different time, it's a completely same place, different time, different substructure to the story and stuff. Excellently told. Like, I still think The Gentleman is like one of the best series I've watched in the last 3 or 4 years.
I still haven't watched the series. I watched the movie, but I gotta watch the series.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really, really good. And but a lot of parallels to that, which really play into Landman, which I think is a Taylor Sheridan show, you know, and a lot of his stuff is very formulaic like that too. Sometimes they don't even have a direction. They're just like, you're pure gold. Here's a blank check. Go make whatever the hell you want. And it works, you know. So whatever that formula is, I think people will eventually catch on to, and this will be a phase that moves forward. But I'm loving it right now. Like, almost everything that's come out has been super duper fun.
Which is good, because I'm glad we came out of the writer's strike with solid material.
Same. Yeah. And a lot of the writers are kind of starting to stick together with these executive producers and stuff. You know, like, oh, we're bringing 2 or 3 people from Netflix, like the Daredevil piece, you know, like Daredevil's on, I think, Disney now. I was finding copies of the new Daredevil Born Again or whatever, but they had brought a bunch of writers over from when it was on Netflix or whatever. So it still has the same feel. It's the exact same cast. It had, like, you didn't deviate much other than where you're watching it now or where it's airing now versus where it was, which I really enjoyed, because a lot of that movie, that series, was done really, really well to that point. So, and I'm seeing a lot of that with like the Taylor Sheridan shows and stuff too. So I'll catch up on Mobland, but I was super excited. That first episode was like, oh, I'm in. I'm totally in.
Yeah. We were both sold after that. And I mean, there was multiple times that we both looked at each other like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, like they do not hold the punches on this show. And I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I watched a series when it was coming out, and it just lost funding and disappeared. It was, I think, an FX series. It was called Taboo, and it also had Tom Hardy in it. Really weird, and it took a bunch of different weird places and stuff, and it kind of had darker undertones, like a Penny Dreadful type of show.
Right.
But it just didn't get renewed and didn't really go anywhere and stuff. And I thought that was a bummer. I was like, well, that might be it for FX. But then they did.
I've heard they actually are redoing that.
That would be cool. They should lay off the themes a lot more and like drive a little bit more home with the characters, and maybe the plot would be huge, because that was the part that suffered a little bit in my eyes. But then FX came out with that samurai show.
Oh, Shogun.
Dope show. Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
Like just the sense of cinematography, and I can't remember that guy's name because I screw it up all the time.
It's on everybody's top 10 lists. Everybody.
The actor that's from a bunch of different stuff that I love was most recently in John Wick 4. He's the lead guy, and beautifully done. Did you watch that series?
No, but it's on my list because of the fact that it's like everyone can't stop raving about it. And
super good.
On top of it being just super gorgeous, that it's the best written show in a long time.
There's parts of it that are like necessary slow points in the series where you're like, oh, just get through this. I know why we're here. I know why this is happening. Just go. But the way it ties in and like reconnects at the end is really good. Top tier stuff. I highly recommend. I knocked that out 6 months ago. I feel like 7 months ago.
Yeah.
Really good though. But a lot of good prestige TV is my point. And this is among one of the really fun watches so far. So good. So anyway, and then The Order.
The Order. Yeah. So The Order is a movie that came out last year, 2024. And it is a loose retelling of real life events that happened in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho in the early 80s. And director Justin Kurzel, he's known for, I'm trying to think of what else he's done. Ellis Park, Nitram, True History of the Kelly Gang, Assassin's Creed. He did the Assassin's Creed movie, Macbeth, The Turning, stuff like that. But this is kind of his first foray into like a biopic kind of film, you know. But essentially it's centered around during the time frame, and you're familiar with this, and if the listeners aren't, Coeur d'Alene had and a lot of people know if you go anywhere and you go, oh, I'm from Coeur d'Alene, they're like, oh, that's where all the Nazis lived, right?
Yeah.
And there was a compound up in Hayden that was the Aryan Nation compound run by a guy named Richard Butler. And he had a church up there. And so this movie is set about a spin-off organization that's a real organization called The Order. And the leader of The Order is played by Nicholas Hoult, who is in everything these days.
Yep. Like Anya Taylor-Joy is also in everything these days.
Right. Yep. Exactly. And Jude Law actually plays the FBI agent who is in the middle of probably a divorce and a family struggle, and he gets relocated to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and is just trying to kind of restart his life. Well, this young sheriff's deputy comes to him and says, hey, there's a bunch of bank robberies happening over in Spokane, and as well as all of the porn shops are all getting blown up by bombs, and then the banks get robbed. I think that it has something to do with this offshoot of the Aryan Nation compound called The Order. I went to high school with a bunch of these kids. I know them. And he goes, yeah, but that doesn't fit the MO. The MO doesn't actually, the Aryan Nations don't do these type of bank robberies and such. And he goes, yeah, but I think it's because they're funding something. It's not because they're bank robbers to be bank robbers. I think they're doing it because they want the money for a particular reason. And he kind of brushes him off until he starts seeing evidence. He starts getting followed, and they start kind of pushing towards understanding this. And a couple more bank robberies happen, and they're on their tail, and he knows who they are now. And eventually they end up in a shoot-off on Whidbey Island over in Seattle. And this actually happened. And so they obviously, in this movie, and it's a really well done slow burn, like drama and mystery and It's a great true crime trauma. However, they do get a few things wrong. First of all, none of the filming is anywhere near Coeur d'Alene. Doesn't look like Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah.
Isn't Coeur d'Alene. And when you watch it, you'll see. Oh yeah, that's not Coeur d'Alene. It was filmed in Canada,
Right.
obviously.
Oh, it's Vancouver again.
Yeah. The main character, the main Jude Law's character, they renamed him for the sake of the movie, but the real guy, the real FBI agent, still lives here, and but they also just kind of paint it a little bit more grandiose than it was. Like there was a lot more people at the church that really than were really there in real life, and they kind of paint anybody right leaning at all to be adjacent to this at the very least, which is obviously preposterous, but for the sake of the Hollywood filmmaking on this, they had to paint it with that picture.
Also, like small grievance with the archetype character of the FBI agent with the family struggles going on behind the scenes, or the cop with the same background, or the whatever. Like that's every cop in every cop show ever made in the history of time.
Right.
That's married or has a significant other. There's always trouble at home. It's bad PR if you want to join a federal agency or law enforcement, don't you think? Like,
yeah, you would
think, can't we just have like one happy-go-lucky dude? Like, I watched a movie with Tom Hardy that just dropped on Netflix called Havoc.
I started watching it last night. I didn't get through it, but yeah,
super good.
Go ahead.
It's a let's break bones and have fun movie, and I love it. You're gonna love it. The rest of it, but even him, same thing. Cop problems at home. Like it's just an observation. It's like, can't we have like one or two that's like got their shit together and it's okay, and their wife loves them very much. They balance their work life.
Of the job, actually, in real life, they do have a high propensity
I'm sure. I mean, so does the military and every other high stress.
Right.
Yeah. It's just it's a bummer. It's bad PR.
Yeah. Well, it is. It's terrible PR. But in this particular case, like I happen to, and the movie plays out, and it obviously puts the very delineated line of the good guys and the bad guys.
Yeah.
And there's no blurring in between. But if you actually know the story behind this, like there's no good guys.
Right.
Probably the sheriff's, the sheriff deputy kid was probably a good guy. There's probably tertiary characters that are good guys. But as far as actual, like the FBI agent, he's not a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I know that is because it's based off of a man named Wayne Mannis. And if you guys want to look up Wayne Mannis, Agent Wayne Mannis, they wrote a book about him, about like, the street sweeper or something like that. He was known for taking down white supremacy gangs, but he bent the rules so much that he went into highly illegal ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Wayne Mannis probably is more aptly famous, less for this and what he did out on illegally, I might add, out in.
Was it Ruby Ridge or?
Ruby Ridge.
Yeah.
He was the head guy for Ruby Ridge.
That's right.
And he was the shot caller out there telling everybody, putting people on that. He's the one who was trying to set up Randy.
Mm-hmm.
And because they wanted him to be an informant to the Order and to, Richard Butler's groups, right? And Randy Weaver was just up trying to homestead and had a family, and he did like farmer market trading with these groups because they were the closest groups and neighbors, and he didn't really have any problems with them. He didn't subscribe to them ideologically, but he just didn't have any problems with them, so he would trade goods with them.
Mm-hmm.
And they got him. He would not be an informant against them. He's like, no, they're just, leave him alone. Like, I'm not being an informant for you. So instead, what they did is they were trying to get him blackmailed in order to do that. And so they set him up by he was in the market for a shotgun, and one of their undercover agents sold him a shotgun that was a 1/4 inch too short on the barrel, and used that as a reason to raid his house and his property with a full force of people. And you can look up Ruby Ridge, but ultimately Randy's wife got killed, his son got killed, his dog got killed, and his wife got killed while holding their baby. And he went to prison for a while, but then got released because it realized that the FBI was the one who screwed up.
Yeah.
And he ended up getting a pretty heavy payout and then living his life in solitude for the rest of his life. And recently, a couple years ago, passed away. But never made a chirp about it. Just said, leave me alone. Like, they've already ruined my life. I don't want to go any further.
Yeah.
Huge blunder. Huge illegal execution. And he's lauded as a hero for that. And I don't agree with that. I don't think that Wayne Maness is a hero. I think he's a bad man. Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, this particular portion, when he was going after the order, and he chased these guys down to Whidbey Island, where they had their stash house and their safe house out there, which is, for those who don't know, Whidbey Island is a 5 or 6 hour drive from Hayden, Idaho, to the coastline, and then you got to take a ferry.
It's the Western Washington Peninsula Islands.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a journey, and they went out there to go to their safe house once things start getting real hot, right? Well, they did not get a warrant to go and do this raid on the house, and they just got into a shootout at a house that they didn't have a warrant for. They had helicopters there. They had a whole bunch of SWAT guys there, and they just started shooting at the house to the point where the house caught on fire. And the main guy, I forget his name, but he ended up dying in the fire. And now, am I sad that a white supremacist guy died? No, I'm not. But I'm also pretty pissed that they are just able to go around and just kick in people's doors and start shooting at them if they don't like you. And so procedurally, also bad and not a good dude. Also lauded as a hero. Never took a single second of disciplinary action. And they just brushed it all under the rug, all this illegal activity he was doing. And that's just the 2 cases that I know that are connected to this area. So this, they really softened and sympathized him as a federal agent in this.
Right.
I happen to also know Wayne Maness's daughter, who is one of the biggest problems in our area politically. Her name's Krista Hazel, and she is the one that called my wife something bitch, and she's behind every scene at the local college here. She's a Republican that votes for Biden. She's all sorts of back channel lawyering, because she's a lawyer, of harmful stuff within our community, and she's behind most of it. And so there's a family lineage of destruction here that I'm not super happy with, which is why I watched this movie. I wanted to see how they presented this. And although it was a good movie, knowing more about the information and the people involved was something that they took their creative liberties with it and turned it into a decent movie. I would recommend watching it. It's definitely a good watch. I would say probably 6.5 megs, maybe 7, but I would say 6.5 megs to the end. Okay. And so, but it is something that, because of regionally how tied in it is to this area, I did learn a few things, like during the order, when they were the spinoff. I mean, they have a character that's Richard Butler in it, and as we all know, Richard Butler got arrested and the rest of the compound got taken down, and it was actually like 9 or 10 guys. It wasn't that many. But they made it seem like it was like
an army of
200 people who were going to his church, right? So but it was something that I definitely looked at and went, okay, this was a good story, but it's not the real story. It's
Right.
not the actual story. But I did learn that about, like, during the order, I didn't know that they were bombing porn stores and doing bank robberies in Spokane. That's the first time I'd ever heard.
I didn't
about
know that either.
So
yeah.
And so, but yeah, that was all connected to this organization. But yeah,
And the time frame is in the 80s, the 80s
Early
and the
80s.
90s. Okay.
Yeah, late 70s, early 80s. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Richard Butler wasn't taken down until long after this
late
this
90s
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, I was in that area for that.
Yep.
Well,
but yeah, so that's that. As far as the movies and things that I've been watching, I got a few things on the docket for later, but I'm gonna try to come up with some more fun conspiracy stuff so I can wear my hat more.
I love it. Well, I will bring to you chapter 40 of the Gospel by Gen Z.
Excellent.
Called 12 Years. When Jesus pulled up to the other side of the sea, the chat filled up so fast, for they were waiting for him. A man begged Jesus to come in clutch for his only daughter, for she was 12 and she was about to take the final L. As they were on their way to his house, POV, the chat is so full that you're all shoulder to shoulder. Someone entered the chat who is bleeding for 12 years. She became sorry for swerving the divine G, so she let her holy intrusive thoughts win and touched the fringes of Holy Bro's cloak. Immediately, her bleeding was canceled. Jesus said, "Pause. Who touched me?" Peter said, "Bruh, the chat is scrolling way too fast to know who." The woman's silent comment was pinned, so she owned it. Jesus said, "You were so real for that." Someone interrupted him, saying, "Let Holy Bro be. For RIP for your daughter, bro." Jesus told the man, "Don't fear. Trust the divine algorithm." When they pulled up, Jesus kicked out the paid actors, took the girl's parents and all three of his mods. She said to the unalived girl, "Be unalive, be unalived." And she said, "Bet." And the chat said, and Sacred Blood gave her something to eat. Then he told them, "You must keep this low key." And that's chapter 40. That's 12 years. A ton.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And coming up on the last few, dude.
The healing hands of the Holy G.
Yeah, we got about a dozen more of these. It's gonna be a fun time.
All right.
Well, shoot, man. I think that's probably about it for me this week. I know I've got stuff coming up, and then you'll be back down here in June. That'll be exciting.
I will. Yep. Mad Mark Tattoo, June 11th through the 17th. So if you want to get in, let me know.
Sweet. All right. Well,
socials.
I think that's it for us, friends. I hope you guys have an awesome night. Please drop us a quick review wherever you listen to your podcast. It helps us out tremendously. Even if it's one word like righteous or awesome, just let us know. And check us out on YouTube. So until then.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see you next time.